Borderlands. I might be the only person I know that was actually excited about this movie. And I'm sorry I was. But, I mean, to be honest, this movie is kind of a weird project. The cast of this movie that they've assembled is kind of bizarre. I feel like even if you don't know the games, you can kind of tell something's off about the cast. You got Jamie Lee Curtis, you got Kevin Hart, you got Nicole Kidman, you got Ariana Greenblatt, who seems the most normal in this cast, her and Jack Black, right? And Eli Roth as a director is just a weird person attached to this. He came off directing Thanksgiving last year, and then he made this. It's just a really odd, amalgamation of things. Now, I should say, I don't know anything about the games. I just thought this movie looked fun, so I went to go watch it. Also, I review movies, that too, but it's mostly the first thing. I was actually excited about the movie. I bought the water bottle in the back from this movie before I went into the theater because it was, cheap, and I wanted to see it, and I don't know, it was cool. So I sat down, watched the movie, and I hated this movie. And I honestly knew nothing about the negative reviews till I was halfway through this movie. And I was just like, this movie is bad. And I did a little Google search on my phone. There was no one around me, so it didn't really matter. I wasn't disturbing anybody. And I did a Google search, and I go, oh shit, this movie started with the 0% Rotten Tomatoes. Now, currently, it's at 8%. And I'm sure this will go on to get a higher score because this movie has some things that maybe your average film goer may not hate as much as some of the critics are hating. But basically this movie, the best way to describe this movie is this movie wants to be the poor man's Guardians of the Galaxy, which is not a bad idea. Eli Roth is the wrong person to do that, but let's say this movie had been rated R, then maybe Eli Roth could have brought some gore and cool violence to it to at least make it a little bit more palatable. That's what he's known for. But this is a PG-13 movie. But the problem with this movie is you don't really feel anybody's chemistry because the cast here, I could imagine the cast in this movie hating each other in real life because they're so awkward. Jack Black's character is probably the most normal who plays Claptrap. He's very irritating. He had zero funny lines. I was in a theater full of a decent amount of people. I'd say maybe 20 people, right? There was groups of people. And none of them laughed through any of his jokes. There's a couple characters in the movie. The guy with the mask on his face, I'm forgetting his name. People kind of laughed at some of his jokes, but Claptrap never made anyone laugh. I think most people found him annoying throughout the whole fucking movie. Ariana Greenblatt was probably the best casting. I think she worked for what that movie needed, but her character was so good at being the snarky asshole that I think at some points that she couldn't turn that off, where she was trying to be emotional, and I couldn't feel the emotions of the scene because it felt like that kind of bratty kid that's trying to swindle somebody didn't get turned off for those sequences. I don't know if that was direction or her performance, but you can kind of just feel that it didn't work. Jamie Lee Curtis's character is just why are you even here? Nicole Kidman kind of tried. I heard a news story about her trying out the games to kind of research her character, and maybe it felt like she definitely tried a lot more. Nicole Kidman's a great actress. She definitely tries a lot more than other actresses, and she's also a lot more willing to experiment with stuff, so maybe she kind of worked for what this movie needed. For the most part, everyone else didn't really work for this. Kevin Hart is just horrible in this movie. Because Kevin Hart doesn't even do the stuff that you want Kevin Hart to do. Of course, he makes jokes about him being short, which aren't funny. Because, bro, you're the only one pointing out you're short at this point. Shut the fuck up. But he does that. But for the most part, Kevin Hart isn't, funny in this movie or that witty. I really don't understand his relationship with the girl, because the first moment you see him in the movie, it's a flashback sequence of him, breaking out her. And then next thing you know, it's a while later, and so there's all this context, I don't know. And that's the other thing about this movie. If you don't play the games, I don't understand anything about this world, how any of it works, what any of the technology is. It's just kind of like bounty hunters and crime running around. And that could have worked if it was just fun and more entertaining, because that's really all I want. I didn't really want a smart movie. I just wanted this movie to be dumb fun. And it just kind of wasn't that, because I didn't buy in these characters' chemistry. I mean, there's at the end of the movie, it's like I was watching it. It's reminding me of Guardians of the Galaxy, where the Guardians save the day and they're just kind of hanging out, vibing together for a second, and it just felt like, okay, but I don't really know any of these characters. I didn't feel like they got along at all. They're always stabbing each other in the back, and not like in a way that makes sense, like in Guardians of the Galaxy. Just everything about this movie is just a worse Guardians of the Galaxy. That's what this movie is trying to be, and it just didn't understand. There's a reason that worked, and there's a reason this doesn't, and I really didn't like it. It wasn't very funny, and yeah, and some of the CGI was just hit or miss. Like, sometimes it was fine and it worked, other times it was just bad, and it's just like Eli Roth's direction here is so bizarre. I just don't understand what they were going for with this movie, or who this movie's made for, because it's not accurate to the games from what I understand. The people who like the games seem to not really like this movie, and then the people who do love the games, who don't really care about the games like me, don't seem to really be getting much out of it. So, Borderlands, I think this movie's a huge misfire. It cost about $120 million. And it's pretty obvious to see what's going to happen to this movie, which is unfortunate, because I felt like Lionsgate was trying to push this to maybe be their next franchise, but it's really not going to work out for them. And you can really see why, because it didn't feel like anyone really had like passion for what they're adapting, and then not only that, it just felt like an epic disaster. So I don't freaking know.